It is a great honor and a privilege to introduce Sylvain Brachfeld. We're here in your beautiful apartment in Israel, in Herzliya. And Sylvain, I saw you on Israeli television, and you spoke about being a survivor of the Shoah, that you were born in Antwerp. So if you could tell us a little bit about your amazing story and what the incredible work that you've done for documenting the rescue of the Belgian Jewish children.
Yeah, in the wartime.
In the wartime. So you were born in Antwerp.
Yeah.
If you could tell us a little bit when you were born.
In 1932.
And here we have pictures of, you were born on the 18th of March in 1932.
And this is a photograph of myself at my wedding.
But so in this picture, here's your parents. What were the name of your parents?
My father was Brachfeld. My mother was Müller.
And where did they come from? Were they many generations in Belgium?
My father came from Poland, and they married in Belgium.
And your mother, where did your mother come from?
Germany. She was born in Cologne.
And how did they land up in Belgium, in Antwerp?
I don't know how to end up. Well, my father, when he came from Poland, was in Antwerp, and there he saw my father came from Poland, and my mother came from Köln in Germany. That's from my parents. But what do you want to know more?
So they got married in Antwerp, and you were born in Antwerp?
Sure.
And here's a picture of your parents, beautiful pictures. And your sister, she was born...
Antwerp.
But she was born after you, she's younger than you.
My sister was born in Antwerp.
Do you know the year? What year was she born in?
She was in 37.
In 37, wow. And your family, you come from a very religious family, a very from family.
But not the Hasidic.
So this is a picture of your...
This is myself, my grandmother and my grandfather.
And your father's in the middle?
Yeah.
And who's the lady?
This is my aunt.
Your aunt is sitting in the middle.
Sabine Walzer. She is a Brachfeld who married a Walzer.
So someone, can you show us, and the other two, is your father in the middle?
Yeah.
And who are the two men next to your father?
Next to my father, well, my uncles. They're my uncles.
It's an amazing photograph. And do you know where this picture was taken? There's also in Antwerp.
Probably.
Probably. Because the Brachfeld family, it's quite an extensive family.
Yeah, maybe.
Sure. And growing up in Antwerp, did you have a good childhood? Do you remember growing up? You remember growing up in Antwerp?
Yeah, sure.
You went to a Jewish school?
School. So you saw the Torah in Antwerp, and we had a Jewish school with the name of Tarkimoni, and also in Antwerp. And then I became, in Antwerp, I was working in the diamond.
But can I ask your parents, what type of work did your father do?
My father, he was in the diamond also.
When he first came to Antwerp?
He came to Antwerp with a friend of one of his friends, and they lived in Antwerp. And then my mother, she came from Germany.
And can I ask, Sylvain, your parents were very religious?
Religious. Mizrahi.
Mizrahi. Wow. And you had a happy childhood? Were most of your friends Jewish, or did you have any non-Jewish friends?
We had non-Jewish friends also, but in Antwerp we had only Jewish friends. I went in the Jewish school from the in Antwerp, so they had Torah, and there was another Jewish school, Tarkimoni.
And what did you speak Flemish, or did you speak Yiddish? What did you speak
Yiddish.
At home? Yiddish. And what is your earliest recollections? What do you remember, your earliest recollections what you remember?
It was my mother. With my mother I spoke German.
You spoke German. But do you remember when you were 3 or 4, what do you remember about Antwerp growing up?
Oh. So in Antwerp, I went to the Jewish school. You saw there Torah, and we stayed there till I became bar mitzvah and so on.
But before the bar mitzvah, I just want to show some more of these beautiful pictures. So this is the pictures of you growing up with your mother and your sister. Now, when the Germans invaded Belgium,
Yeah.
do you remember you were
8 years.
You were 8 years old. Do you remember the Germans invading Belgium? Do you remember the Germans coming into Antwerp?
Yeah, sure.
What can you tell us about, what do you remember?
We tried, when the Germans came to Antwerp, I was living in Antwerp with my parents, and then in this book you have all the photographs of Antwerp.
But do you remember seeing the Germans march into Antwerp?
Yes.
And did you still remain in your house, or?
No, I was at that moment 8 years old, yes.
Yeah. When they came, you were 8 years old. It was in 1940 when they came in.
Yeah.
And I know that you were taken to a monastery, and that's how you were saved. But how did your parents manage to?
There was in Antwerp at that moment, there was a lot of Jews that in Antwerp started to hide as Christians when the Germans arrived, because we were afraid. So we became Christians.
How did you become? Did your parents take you to the monastery?
No, not my parents, but there was a group in Antwerp that take care of all the Jews, not all the Jews, but take care of the Jews. And we were hidden in Antwerp in a monastery.
Do you remember the name of the monastery?
La Providence. La Providence. It was in the French part of Belgium.
And do you remember saying goodbye to your parents? Do you remember when you had to leave home and say goodbye to your parents?
I remember that we had to hide as Catholics, not as Protestant, but as Catholics. And I stayed with all these people from till 45.
But Sylvain, can I just ask, before you went to the monastery, do you remember saying goodbye to your mother and your father?
That's another story. My father was denounced by a local Antwerp guy, and he was taken by the Germans.
And he was killed. Do you know where they transported him, or where he was? Did they send him to the camps?
No, he was arrested, and then he was. He didn't survive.
And your mother survived, and your sister survived.
Yeah.
Where did your sister go? Did she?
She was a little girl, 5 years old.
And who hid your sister and your mother?
Yeah.
Were they hidden by Belgian non-Jews?
Yeah.
And did your sister go to a monastery as well?
Sure.
Your sister as well?
My sister at a certain moment, as a Catholic girl, was in a Catholic convent.
In a convent. And someone can ask, when you came to the monastery, how did you feel? Or you were 10 years old, I think, when you...
Yeah, sure.
Do you remember going inside the monastery? It must have been very strange for you.
It was. But we were supposed to try to survive by living as Catholics.
And you had to learn the Catholic prayers. And I think at 6:30 every morning you had to go to church.
Exactly.
And do you remember going to the church? Do you remember praying?
Yeah, I went to the church and we prayed with all the Catholics in the church.
But you knew that you were Jewish. I think your mother instilled.
My mother told me,
she told you.
Don't forget that you were Jewish. And so we survived.
Were there other Jewish boys with you in the monastery?
In the monastery, yes.
And were you ever scared that some of the children would find out that you were Jewish because you had a Brit Milah? Were you ever nervous that they would find out that you were Jewish, or that the Germans would take you? Were you ever scared?
But the children of my age, we didn't know so much about the difference of Jewish, that we are Jewish.
But the nuns knew that you were Jewish?
Sure.
And were there priests as well? There were also priests?
I think that yes.
And they also must have known that you were Jewish. So these were righteous people, because they could have, like what they did with your father, they could have informed to the Germans and then...
You know, this is a very difficult time, and a lot of things happened, and we didn't know exactly what happened, and when it happened, and where it happened.
And someone did your mother ever come and visit you during this time that you were in the monastery?
Yes, I think. Sure.
And did you remember any of you were now 10 years old, did you remember Shema Yisrael? Did you remember any of the prayers?
Sure. I remember this. My mother also told me that I'm Jewish and I have to know, but don't speak about it. It was, I mean, what can I remember when I was 10 years old?
Yeah.
And so we survived.
And did you have enough food to eat, or did you go hungry?
No, everyone in Belgium, like people in Europe, didn't have so much to eat.
And did you make friends at the monastery? Did you manage to make friends?
Sure. I was between all the other boys a good Catholic.
And did any of the other boys know that you were Jewish? Or you always kept quiet, you never told them?
Sure, I didn't tell them. But one of the boys was Jewish. We had a problem because we acted as good Catholics. Went to church, and always when we were eating, we made the crosses, and that was it. Only the sister, the nun, knew that I was Jewish.
And the other nuns didn't know?
No, there were nuns that probably knew, but we didn't tell. So I was a good Catholic.
And
when
you went to school, when you attended the classes, did you ever hear any anti-Jewish things about from the teachers or the students?
No, nothing. I was just a good boy in the school. It's all the others of my age, and that was it.
And did you know what was going or what happened to your father at this time?
My father was denounced by a Belgian guy, and he was killed.
Did you know? Did you know that this had happened?
Later.
Only later?
Only later.
It must have been terrible when you found out. It must have been unbelievable.
We were all the time, we didn't know exactly what we are, Jewish, Christians, better said, Catholics. It was very, very difficult for us.
And when the war ended, when did you see your mother and your sister again? Was it straight after the war ended? In 45?
My mother came to in 45. My mother came to visit me.
It must have been very emotional when you saw your mother.
But I saw her.
You saw her, she used to come visit.
Yeah.
And what happened when it was your bar mitzvah? You were, at this time you were you never had a bar, did you have a bar mitzvah afterwards or?
My bar mitzvah was my bar mitzvah was after the war. So we had a synagogue, and I had a bar mitzvah by, I could read Hebrew. I could, so I said the brachos.
And which synagogue? Do you remember the name of the synagogue?
No, it was a synagogue. It was not a synagogue with a name.
Like a shtibel.
Well, a few people together.
And do you remember your pasha? Do you remember?
If I remember, it was Vayikra.
Sure. Wow. And when did you first see your sister again? Was it after the war, or did you manage to see her?
No, I saw my sister again. She was in don't forget we were 5 years difference.
Yeah. There's a 5-year difference. So here's a picture with you and your sister. Yeah, she was 5 years younger.
Yeah. She was born in 37.
And so, what is the name of your sister?
Helen.
Helen. And during the time you were in the convent,
Yeah.
in the monastery, did you see your sister? Did she manage to come in?
No, I don't. We were
separate.
One convent was separated from the others. Nothing special.
And then after what do you remember when the war ended?
The war ended in 45.
And what do you remember of the day when did the nuns tell you that there's no more war and we're free now and the Germans have been defeated?
Yeah. Yeah, we were talking, it's actuality.
So this is a picture with you and your mother and your sister. And so, what do you remember of? Do you remember the day when the war ended? Do you recall what?
Yeah, the Germans were defeated.
Were you very happy when you heard that the war had ended?
Sure.
And did your mother come and fetch you soon afterwards?
Yeah. Then I don't remember all the details. Don't forget, 1945 was a very difficult time. End of the war.
Yeah.
And we were happy that we could go on, but as Jews.
And did your house, the home that you had, could you go back to that home? Did it still exist?
No, we went. I don't remember exactly.
But you stayed in Antwerp with your mother and your sister?
Yeah.
And this beautiful picture that you have with your mother and your sister, how old were you in this picture? I'm just going to show this magnificent picture. You're wearing a yarmulke. How old were you roughly in this picture? Your sister?
It was in 45.
This was in... And you stayed together with your mother and your sister? And how did your mother make a living? How did she support?
She didn't make a living. She didn't work. But we received money from England, from my uncle. I don't know who and what. It was very difficult to say all the details. Very, very difficult.
And did you go to school after the war?
After the war, I went to study in the diamond business, and I started to learn how to work.
In all the spheres, did you do cutting of the diamonds, or what type of work did you do in the diamond field? Could you polish, or did you cut diamonds?
No, I had to learn how to sort diamonds by colors, and then later by...
Because a lot of the diamond industry in Antwerp became very... it was a very prominent Jewish... Many survivors, many people, that's how they made a living. And
yeah. We had a good living in Antwerp. So after the war, I was with my mother in, how you would say, mansarde. We had three or four rooms, a kitchen and dormitories.
And did your mother get remarried?
No,
she never got remarried.
Never.
And the Jewish community, were they helpful? Did you, in Antwerp, they were very united? Or they helped?
I don't remember. I don't remember.
And did you stay in Antwerp for quite a long time after the war?
Sure. When after the war, my uncles came from America, from the United States, and I was working in the diamond by sorting.
And someone can ask, what happened to the rest of your family? Your grandparents or your uncles and aunts?
Deported.
All deported. Your mother's family that were from Germany, did any survive? Brothers and sisters of your mother, or?
No, I had an uncle in London, and that was it then.
And on your father's side, from Poland, was there any family that survived from Poland?
Don't forget, it was a billboard like this, very, very complicated. So
And so, can I just ask, the monastery and the convent, these places that took in Jewish children, they did it at tremendous danger, because
but we were Catholics. That was it. And so we survived.
And if I could ask you, what message do you give to, because you've been through so much, what advice or what message do you give to your children, grandchildren, and to the future generations?
No, after the war, the children went to school, Jewish schools, so in Antwerp, Jewish schools, and that's it. And I learned diamond.
And you got married? You got?
Oh yes, later.
Was your wife from? Did you get married in Antwerp?
In London.
In London. And where did you live before you came to Israel?
Before I came to Israel, a good question. You don't know when.
But where were you living mainly, most of your life? You lived in Belgium?
Yeah.
And it's amazing. You've written so many incredible, you not only as a journalist and a historian, but you've written A Gift of Life, The Deportation and Rescue of Jews in Occupied Belgium from 1940 to 1944. And this is for the Institute for the Research of Belgian Judaism. So you are a world authority, an expert on this field. And you've written, this is...
Yeah, but I wrote this in Flemish.
In Flemish?
Flemish Dutch.
Wow. And you wrote this, did you do this for any organization, or you just did it?
Yeah, it was, if I don't remember, I gave it to the library in Antwerp.
And the research that you've done in these books, it's extensive. Where did you have the time to do such research and to become a world authority? I mean, this is your book, and it's so important what you've documented, the history of the rescue of the Jewish children in Belgium. And you did this. Did you do this voluntary, or did you work for any organization?
No, I wrote a book here.
Wow, but it's and you became an authority on the subject. You're a world authority. So you're very modest, but you're a world authority on the subject.
Yeah, sure.
And it's extensive. It's in the book you document all the different. It's just amazing, the different stories, and with pictures, and this must have taken you years and years to research. And
I don't remember what I did.
No, it's amazing, it's incredible. It really is incredible. And I just want to ask you, when you look back on your experience, what advice or what advice do you give to the future generations?
Like everyone my age. But I learned the diamond trade, and I worked as a diamondaire.
But Sylvain, can I ask you, how could things have been different? Or how could more Jews have been saved?
That I don't know. Because the question is where and when and with whom, and everyone had his own problems to survive.
And if I would ask you, the priests or the nuns that took you in, they did it because maybe it was a moral, they felt it was their duty.
No, the nuns and the priests, they knew that I was Jewish, but they were anti-Germans.
Mm-hmm.
So they helped us.
Were they given Chasidei or Mutalam? They were made righteous amongst the nations?
Sure.
Because they really did risk their lives. They really did.
Yeah, I have a book here where I wrote everything about who was Jewish at that time and who was in charge.
You've written many books. It's incredible. So, Sylvain, I just want to thank you so much. It's incredible what you've done, and I'm so grateful to you. And is there anything that you would like to add, or any?
That my life was like this. A lot of things that have been done have been by the fact that I became older and I had to learn the diamond business. And then I worked for a lot of years in the diamond business.
And you must have made many connections, met many people and made many connections.
40 years I was in the diamond.
Did you ever come to South Africa? Did you have any dealings with South Africa?
South Africa? No, not very. No. I had contact.
Well, I just want to thank you, Sylvain. I am so grateful to you. I am extremely grateful to you, and really thank you so much. You are such an inspiration, and it's been such an honor and a privilege to be with you. And
thank you.
You know, I'll tell you, it's amazing that the Jews in Antwerp, a lot of the Jews after the war, they got involved in the diamond industry.
Yeah, that was very important.
But the diamond industry also was, they say, a handshake. The deal was made on, there was a lot of trust.
Bracha.
That's right.
That was it. We don't make contracts and nothing. We said
it was and it was your word.
And that's it, the word.
Wow. It's incredible. It really is incredible. And I'm so grateful to you. And you should just have mazel and bracha and be well. And you know, when I look at these, what you've written and it's incredible. It is really something amazing.
In Flemish.
It's in Flemish, but you wrote this one in English as well. And this is a testament, and this is a memory to all those, unfortunately, who were deported and also those that were rescued. Wow. So Sylvain, I am so grateful to you, and you should just be well and have all of Hashem's blessings. Ad Mei V'Srim, in good health.
But that was life at that time.
Well, I'm very, very grateful to you, Sylvain. Thank you so much.
Please.
And just be well, and you really are an inspiration to all of us. You really are, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I received a Belgian.
Your Majesty. Wow, this is...
See, Mon Ami as the nun, my mother.
This was the nun from where you were saved.
Yeah.
What was her name?
Le Ruth. Le Ruth. These are my parents. Father, mother. Here with my daughter and the family.
And here we are. This is Maria Luth. And who... Wow, this is amazing.
This is the boy. They had no children. Léon and Valentine Florent.
And you stayed in the house? You were in the house?
I'm what?
You lived in their house, in their home?
Sure.
Yeah. And this is Marie. And Ferdinand and Gustave?
This is the postmaster and the nun and Bon Ami, one of the men who helped us. Here I have Bon Ami again, the nun, myself, my mother, and that was the lady who helped us. Yeah.
And in this picture here?
No, this is my grandparents and my mother. My father and my mother, and when we were married. This is the mayor of Antwerp.
This is the mayor of Antwerp.
This is the mayor of Antwerp.
Yeah.
This is my wife. And there is my mother in the middle.
Gee. And here's with kind
President of Israel.
And here's also with, this is with Herzog, here's with Weizmann.
Weizmann and Gaulle. Yeah.
This is incredible.
My two children, my two girls, their husbands.
And when did you, this was in 1992?
This is when I received the order, a prize from the Belgian Leopold's order. Yeah. Very nice. This is only part of this is my parents, father, mother.
And here you got a wonderful recognition from the the Canadian ambassador.
Yeah.
Here's from Trudeau.
This is they all are different languages.
The Speaker Series event. Wow.
Exposures of Israel, diplomatic ambassadors in Israel.
And this Trudeau as well. Where was this one from? This is from the this is from the
This is Gans and Piron.
Shai Piron. And this was in Yerushalayim, the event? It's from the state of Israel. Wow, but this
I'm not sure.
So this is the nun. And what year was this taken? You had a reunion. You remember the reunion? You remember this event?
Her husband died, and we were hidden when our first, this is the second husband.
And this is
My mother.
this is your mother over here, and you over here. And how old were you when this was taken? This is
No idea.
it's incredible. And they were given. She was given Chasidei Mot Olam,
All
and they all were given.
sure. Léon and Valentine Florent. And the nun, Sœur Le Ruth. And then you have Weizmann, and you have the president.
And
I was in the convent with my friend, my wife and me, and this is the president of Israel.
it's very special. And now you have a son-in-law who's the ambassador to the Israeli ambassador to the Philippines.
Yeah.
And the Philippines, which was the one of the very few countries that allowed Jews to come in. They opened their doors for Jews, and I've met some Jews that actually went from Germany to the Philippines, and their lives were saved because the Philippines opened their doors.
Yeah.
It was one of the very, very, very few countries that allowed Jews to. And now you have a son-in-law who's the ambassador.
My two daughters and their husband. And he is the ambassador of Israel in the Philippines.
You must be very, very proud. Sylvain, this is incredible. Thank you so much.
Please, my dear. Very happy to help you. Miller, Chazan Miller.
And you knew Chazan Malik as well? And you were
singing together.
And you were singing in the Fandanesh for 5 years.
Yeah.
Do you remember any of the tunes? Can you sing?
Oh, sure. You sing for 5 years, you know, every word.
Can you sing one or two? A little bit?
בטרם כל יצר נברא, התנסה וחפצו כל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא, ואחרי ככלות הכל, לבדו ימלוך נורא, הוא אחד ואין שני, להמשיל ולהגביר אדון עולם.
Thank you so much.
But this is the normal, people everyone knows this.
But you do it so beautifully, so well. Oh, thank you so much, Sylvain.
Not the